Hello and welcome to the One Arm No Leg podcast. I am Riain O'Connor and I'm joined by
Adam O'Connor.
And we have our guest,
Edyth Dunlop from the Northern Ireland Union of Supported Employment.
Welcome, Edyth.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Great to have you here.
Good to have you. I think we'd like to know where you're from again, Edyth.
I'm based. I'm from the Northwest, and our offices are in Derry, and I live there too. So that's so a bit of a drive up this morning now, but it's good roads.
Traffic okay for you?
Traffic was fine.
Oh, that's good.
I work for the Northern Ireland Union of Supported Employment, and we are an umbrella organisation that works with organisations who are helping people to get back into, people with disabilities back into work, get into work and back into work, and sustain in work. We're Northern Ireland wide, and we cover all areas of disability, and our organisations are representative of that. We have our members represent sort of regional organisations or local organisations, but they're all working within this model of supported employment. And supported employment is an internationally recognised model that assists people to get into work, to sustain in work and progress in work. So it's not just about getting somebody a job and then that's it. It's about continuing to provide that support for those people who need it.
Yes,
more so. So yeah.
Okay.
And you were talking about, just before we started the podcast, you were talking about you were over in Spain there recently doing a thing for Europe.
Yes. We're also involved. So we have the Northern Ireland Union of Supported Employment. There's associations in England and Scotland and Wales as well. But we're also part of a European Union of Supported Employment as well. Amazing. And they held their 15th conference in Salou, just outside Barcelona, in Fuerteventura. And it was there was over 600 delegates from 30 countries, all there talking about supported employment and employment for people with disabilities. And myself and Paula from CINE came along, and we did a presentation called Lights, Camera and Positive Action about employing people with disabilities. So I have to say, Paula took the lead basically on the presentation. She was excellent, and it was very, very well received. And I think it really showed what I suppose the thinking behind CINE, as well as what CINE is trying to do and trying to make those changes and trying to ensure that more people with disabilities are included within the creative industry sector. And it's something that I'd mentioned actually at that. You know, we've been working now from the Northern Ireland Union of Supported Employment. We've been around nearly for 30 years. We've worked in very many sectors and working with different employers. And I suppose when David from CINE had sort of initially contacted ourselves, he'd said to me, you know, about the creative end. And I have to say, I probably thought more about the front, people in front of the camera. And I was thinking, you know, not everybody can do that either, you know. But then it really made me realise through the work that they were doing, it was all about everything behind the camera.
All the behind the scenes and everything like that.
Just amazing. And it was a wee bit of a light bulb moment, as I'd said at the presentation, that you suddenly realised there was so much opportunities, and there was so much opportunities maybe our sector wasn't taking advantage of. You know, so you know, we've seen through the CINE project itself that, you know, I think it was some of the figures there was like 49% of the people involved are people with disabilities. So there's definitely an interest there. People want to be part of that. So no, it was really, really interesting to find, as I said, to find out a lot more about what CINE is about. And the opportunities are there, and then the opportunities really behind the scenes, you know. I think we talked about some statistic in and around that, you know, for every one person in front of the camera, there's probably about 300 roles behind the camera. And people with disabilities, you know, should be taking advantage of those as well.
It's a big industry, like,
it is.
And I think it's a long time coming in regards to getting people with disabilities into that industry, because you watch a lot of films and you see a lot of people behind the scenes, and you're like, you know, you don't see someone who's maybe using a wheelchair or someone who's maybe using a stick, and you're like, oh jeez, I wonder, is there anyone who is disabled? You know, so I think it's a long time coming for people like me and Adam in that regard, you know.
And at least and we both knew that when there can be runners like in the behind the scenes, so that at least there's multiple jobs that aren't like runners.
It's not just one job.
One job, there's like multiple. It's like, Riain, could you please help me just edit this? So after we filmed today.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, cool. You know, that sort of way. So.
But it's such a vast industry, you know. I think that was a bit, and I
crazy,
think
like,
what's happening here in Northern Ireland is, as we spoke
especially,
about earlier as well, is amazing, and it's fantastic. And you know, and maybe we look back at maybe a little bit before your times, you know, the only thing we maybe made here was the Billy plays, or we had the news and things like that. We're now, you know, like international companies are coming here to make movies, not only just to be in front of the camera, but behind the camera as well.
Of course.
And it brings something new. That was the other thing, I suppose, that, you know, very much through our presentation, we were trying to show that it brings a new dimension.
Yes,
To,
100%,
you know, as Paula said at the presentation, it's, you know, if we keep going to the same people or the same organisations, how people get into this industry, we're going to keep getting the same.
Exactly.
So you need to broaden that out. And I suppose that's something very much that we would often be saying to employers as well, as when they're looking to employ people with disabilities, or looking to employ people, that you need to broaden that out, you know, what people can bring, different people from, you know, different backgrounds and ethnicity, you know, and all of those areas. It brings something a lot more to the organisation. So I think that was one of the sort of key things that, you know, we brought across at the presentation, and there was a lot of interest afterwards, you know, from people who were all from all over the world asking a lot more questions.
I was about to ask about that, like a lot of people asking questions about everything,
You know, they sort of, it was that bit about suddenly realising, you know, maybe we haven't tapped into that. You know, we haven't tapped into that sector.
Definitely.
You know, maybe be working with people, and, you know, we haven't maybe, you know, somebody may have suggested it, and, you know, because I suppose that's within the model of supported employment. It's very much about a one-to-one approach. It's very much about finding out what a person's skills and abilities are, and looking at those to try to match those to a job along with the person, you know. And if somebody says to them, you know, oh, I'd be interested in camera work or that, and if you don't believe it in yourself, you'll be thinking, I don't think that's, you know, so you're not going to pursue it maybe for the person. So I was saying you have to be open to all eventualities and all, you know, whatever person's career aspirations are, you know, and follow those through. So I think through Cine, that was something very clearly that was giving people that opportunity, you know, and so no, I think it was.
I think the opportunity is the most important thing. Because it's very hard nowadays, even for someone who's not disabled, to get into this industry. But to know that people with disabilities have that support. It's great. Like it's a big advantage, and I think it needs to be taken. You know,
and I think, you know, like some of the statistics, and I'm sure you know you're aware of some of them, but like we have the lowest rate of unemployment for people with disabilities in the whole of the UK. You know, and actually on this island of Ireland as well, that in the south of Ireland has actually got one of the lowest rates in Europe. So you sort of wonder why that's the situation. That's something we're obviously going to try and look into as well. But
I think the best thing about it is, like, people like me and Adam want to get out there and work. It's not like it's not like we have a choice in the matter of where, oh well, I just want to sit down and do nothing. It's something that me and Adam want to get out and do, to meet people, to, you know, socialise as well. I think it's going to be very important for people with disabilities.
Annoy everyone that we meet.
You got that one.
That's it.
No, and you know, that's very much what, you know, disabled people want. You know, people want to work, they want to contribute, they want to be part of, you know, their communities and society, and work brings more than just somebody getting paid. Work brings the whole social aspect that you're talking about there, and those types of things. So work is very, very important to our society. You know, to everybody, you know, and the value that is there as well. So I suppose, you know, I've seen over time things change, which is good. There has been a lot of change since I've sort of been involved. We had the introduction of the Disability Discrimination Act that obviously has helped. You're making maybe people more aware of, you know, what their responsibilities are and their duties are, and through then obviously the organisations that are out there that are supporting people with disabilities to help them to get into work, but also there for employers as well, because I think that's also an aspect of all of this too. The employers within the area are maybe not as aware, or maybe not knowing, you know, what's out there available to help and support them, but also, you know, because maybe they haven't worked with somebody before with a disability, what to do, what to say, you know, and that's you know, and I can understand that for some employers, but I think through the organisations, they work very closely too with the employers and making them aware, and you know, those employers get those light bulb moments as well, and they realise, you know, we've met over time a lot of very, very good employers that have, you know, have recruited people and come back and want to, and are open and, are changing their recruitment practices and all of those types of things to ensure that looking at alternative ways rather than one of the big areas for ourselves is, an interview is, it's very subjective in a sense. It's, it's across a series of questions. Really does that give you an opportunity to demonstrate your skills in the job that you want to do? So we would often very much promote working interviews. Where it gives somebody that opportunity to demonstrate that they can do the job, and that is permitted through under the DDA as well. So it's
So do you use do you get say you get an employer and you've someone maybe that wants to do that type of job? Would you say to that employer, right, is there any chance we can get the type of questions you would maybe ask?
Yep, that was something,
person, and then that person at least knows going on, how they're going to answer that, without feeling anxious or nervous,
Yeah, oh, definitely. Once again, it all goes back to the individual, and what they're on. But if somebody needed, who maybe would have difficulty sort of remembering sort of questions, because sometimes you go into, an interview and they'll not just ask one question, they'll ask maybe 2 or 3 questions together, the way they add it on. But, I don't even know for myself, I'd be answering the first bit, but I've forgotten what the last bit was about,
Exactly.
So to have those questions maybe either in advance or to maybe even just written down in front of a person, that also gives that person that confidence just to go back and check and sort of, have I answered all the questions? Other reasonable adjustments can be also as well that somebody could go along as a support worker into the interview. They're not there to answer the questions for the individual, but they're there just to sort of support, or sometimes to ask the questions in a different way, because that will help.
In case somebody doesn't know what they're actually meaning by the question.
Like maybe repeat the question in a different way. They'll be like, this is what they ask, but really they're asking this.
Sort of like a theory test.
We all have that, so it really is, and I suppose that's what's about looking at what an individual needs, and then, and talking to employers and, and see, and as I said, I have seen great changes, with employers that are much more willing to look at those types, because they see it as it's a reasonable adjustment for that individual, and some of the practices too actually helps them in their whole job as well with people without disabilities, because people often do the same thing over and over again, but not necessarily looking at how do you change that. Would actually change it in a better way for more people. It's not just necessarily for themselves. Giving somebody that opportunity, to have the questions beforehand, or just to have them there would be really useful for everybody, And, sometimes employers as well, would allow people to come and visit the place in advance so they know where they're going. And,
I think that's really important too.
Because, apprehensive, for example, even me coming here today, you get an address, you think you know where it is, you're using SatNav, you have all of those types of things, but you're coming in and it's it's not the name of the company in the front door, but it's
the big,
exactly.
So rather than running along the day of an interview, you can go the day beforehand to find that place, and that's kind of the things that I suppose a lot of the support workers or the support organisations would do, and we have a range of support organisations in Northern Ireland that cover such a vast range. Like you have organisations like Action Mental Health that are dealing obviously with people with mental health difficulties. You've got the Cedar Foundation that is working with people with physical disabilities and traumatic brain injuries and autism as well. You've pan-disability organisations like Disability Action and NIUSE as well, organisations that are looking at all areas, right down to organisations like MenCap, Orchardville Society, and Now Group and Stepping Stone are looking at people with learning disabilities and autism, and then you have specialist services like Specialist Learn. So there's a range of organisations. And maybe what I'll do after this is, if I could tag that to yourselves as well, it would just give people an opportunity to see what those organisations are. I'm making sure that I've said everybody too as well. So I think Appleby, I have to put them in Can. And
but I think that's important to actually, because there is people maybe out there with disabilities that don't know about these supporting industry or companies that are there to help
definitely
get back to work and get into work and stuff.
Just actually there this week, last week, somebody actually who's from here had contacted an organisation in England to look for help, and then they contacted me to see if I, so it just shows you that, you're sort of thinking, it's always having that opportunity to be able to promote what those organisations
Of course.
are and the
Of course.
contact
I
details.
think even just to have us, when we're putting these podcasts out, to have the Instagrams or the Twitters or the,
Yep.
all the social medias for these companies. So
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
they're out there, so that people will know that this is where you go, this is how you find out more. It's definitely important. But I'll bring it back to what you were saying there about, the support people that go into these industries and say, to view before the person with a disability goes on to the interview and stuff. I think one of the most important things is you always get that, the reasonable adjustments. That person might not know what they need until they see
Yes.
inside the offices or the buildings.
I literally was about
So
to
I think
say
that's
that too.
very important to have that there beforehand. So at least if you go to the interview, you go, oh, well, for reasonable adjustments, I'll probably need, this or that, for my support, for my job person that's coming on, they do the interviews and stuff. They'll need maybe a low table, or maybe they need a certain type of chair. And that's not big of an ask.
No. And Riain, just as you've said that is definitely something that's, there's something you're going along for the interviews that you need reasonable adjustment. Then once you start in the workplace as well, but to get to see those, you might not necessarily know what they are until you start.
Exactly.
And sometimes with employers maybe are a little bit apprehensive. They think, oh, is this going to cost a lot of money? That's out there. At the end of the day, they're businesses. But there is support out there as well for businesses to help them. There's I'm sure there's a program that's run by the Department of Communities called Access to Work.
Yes.
And Access to Work will help towards the cost of aids and equipment, or travel to work, or for interpreter services, or
that's
support
services. That's what they're helping me with.
I think a lot of businesses think, automatically, oh, we have to pay for all this. They don't. You're not just supporting people with disabilities getting back to work. You're also helping the business as well to help that person get back to work. Which I think is really important, that businesses need to know that, because as you say, like, they might think, oh no, well, we're going to have to pay a lot of money for this. You're not. You're maybe paying half of it, and then another support
company
group's
is
helping half the other side of it. So,
definitely.
it's definitely just not just the disability people you're helping, and you're helping everyone. Which is good, because, as I say, a lot of people don't know these things are there for help.
And then, like with the employer, I always think that whenever they see the person with the disability, they might actually have a light bulb themselves, saying, oh, we're doing this, but this might help him more because they have reasonable adjustments. This might help. So he might have like a wee light bulb
but
himself.
It's funny that you keep about the light bulb thing, because this isn't anything to do with work, but just in general, like when I started working out in the gym, they never seen anyone in my condition before, and they were like, oh crap, this guy can go and do these things himself, and light bulb, at least we know now if someone else comes along, we know exactly what to do, which is good. So, but that's seen everything, like, these days.
And as part of that, for that business, I know the gym, but if people see you there and then they go, well, that's actually making better business for the gym, because somebody else is going to come along and do that. So I think that's one thing to remember that we're often saying to employers as well. If they make their offices accessible, I think accessible, is maybe, accessible for physical access, but if you be more open as well, more people will come to your business. More people will be feeling, it's often we say, like, some of the employers that I know that the organisations work with are like small businesses, and that's one thing to remember in Northern Ireland. The majority of employers here are actually small businesses, so medium to small businesses, and they're in their local communities. So you have your local shop or whatever, and if you see people working in that shop as well, well, then the local community will support that as well. So it's always about, that's a bit about giving back. And there was some figure around at one time that says, like, the amount of money they refer to as the purple pound for people with disabilities that give back into businesses, something like 245 million every year is in the economy, so that very much is,
Can we give?
And
there's a lot of, it isn't just about giving a person an opportunity; it's about giving
everyone else,
widening that opportunity out to people.
Like, it's crazy, like, because, like, where I live in Dungiven, like, our local shop, there's only so much, space for cars. Whereas I would I remember asking the owner of the shop one day, I says, "Here's a chance I could just park just just outside the door there, just, where it's not in anyone's road and all. And he was like, work away, but that was so simple for me because, there's less distance then for me to walk into the shop and walk back out, and that simple adjustment could help him more, so that when other people come from maybe outside the town and maybe have a disability, just go park
at the front.
It'll be fine, but then it helps him more.
I like
as well.
that you have parking spaces that everyone's disabled. I think everyone takes the disabled parking spaces.
But that's what I mean. But that's this where I park. It doesn't even like a car spot. It's just a right parking.
Oh, it's just
area where you could just park there.
Yeah.
Go onto the shop and come back out. You're not in anyone's road. You're not in any car's road. And as I say, just that simple adjustment helped me more, and it gives him more business from me. And then I can go and say to my friends that maybe have a disability, well, if you're going there, I just park there because he doesn't mind it.
He doesn't mind.
So,
He's
but it's so simple, like just something so simple can be just like that.
Yeah, sometimes it's the simplest solution.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people overthink things and they think, oh God, this is going to be very difficult to do, or it's going to be costly, or how can I do this? But sometimes it's very much just about asking the person, really, how can we sort of improve this, or what can we do? And sometimes the simplest of
options is the easiest.
I can remember back in my own experience many years ago when I first started with a young woman who was coming to work with us, and she was a wheelchair user, and photocopiers were sort of out at the time, but they were quite high, and we were sort of, we're going to have to change the photocopier, because that was admin was the kind of area work she was working in. And the simplest thing we just needed to do was to put got a wee bit of like highlighter paper and marked where A4 was this way and A4 was, because that was all we could do at those days. And the footer, and that was it. That was the reasonable adjustment that we made. But we near enough analysed ourselves out that we were going to have to buy a new, the business would have to buy a new photocopier. No, it wasn't.
Exactly.
So no. I think sometimes that there's easy solutions. And it's just making employers are becoming more and more aware of that, I have to say, and much more open to be working with, as I said, the range of organisations that we sort of mentioned there as well. And I suppose, we've really good examples, and some maybe videos too that we can share with yourselves as well.
Absolutely.
There was actually just one up in Derry as well with MenCap and Primark, with a young man getting a job there, and then also with Tim Hortons in Riain with Triangles Progression to Employment as well, at just showing what they've done. And and I think that's the bit sometimes that we maybe we're not as good at doing, or not as good as promoting. And the more of this that we do is definitely the part of it, is to show people in such a range of different types of jobs and those opportunities. And but we need to see more of it too. And we are seeing more of it, I think, sort of within on TV and and sort of media and things like that. But also, like, if people are producing booklets, if this is a booklet about from a college or whatever, they need to show the range of people that are coming to there. So the more you have of that makes people think, well, I can do that. It's the seeing it and making sure that becomes part of what our norm is, and that we would see that all the time.
But it's good, like, because as you said there about the promotion side of it, if you go on LinkedIn, there's a lot of companies out there that are looking for video producers in regards to promoting the business. But as you said there about people who have disabilities or maybe working for the first time, and then they're being promoted for their company, it helps them. And I just think if a lot more companies were able to do that, just to represent for the disability side of it, it helps them more too. When it comes to hiring the next person with a disability, or the next person with maybe who you didn't think, oh, well, they can do that because we had someone like you before to do it. Here's a video example.
They can recommend that person to do something else, like in a different company, that way.
And it's definitely very much from an employer's perspective. It's hearing it from other employers as well. As I often say, we can talk to employers all day, but that's our business and that's what we want to do. But if you hear that from another employer and they're saying, this is what we did, then, they really do listen, as part of that, and that's promoted. promoting that.
And they can like contact each other.
Yes,
saying,
and
like,
they do. They
like
do.
say,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have this guy, he's CP. How did you how did you help him in any way like that? And then they'll be like, oh, we just did this. He got on with it perfectly.
It's good for the communication side of things, I think,
Yes.
as well. You know, businesses reaching out to other businesses, reaching out to other support, you know, and you know, it helps. It helps that business grow too. You know,
Oh, it does.
definitely.
And it opens up new markets for them and everything like that as well.
Makes them
Well,
look really, really good.
Yeah,
oh no, definitely. It's as I said, we've seen things change over time, but I think there's a lot more that we still need to do.
definitely.
I think we're still needing to sort of help and support just individual, but also support employers. We're not at that stage where I don't think we're really at that stage yet where we can't. Particularly for those people who are the furthest removed from the labour market, who are further back, somebody who's never worked before,
Yes.
or somebody who, becomes disabled later in life and things like that, and has to maybe change their career as well,
Yeah.
So we do need to look at that aspect of it, So the organisations that we work with, not only looking at people sort of helping them in work, but also helping to retain people in work as well,
Of course,
Yes.
because that's really important as well, because and we would be very much saying that to employers. Employers don't want to lose good employees. It costs money to recruit people.
Yeah.
There's the downtime, that person's not there, it's the recruitment, all of those types of aspects. And if you had somebody who's, a good employee, a loyal employee, you want to be able to maintain them there as well. So that
Exactly.
opportunity about keeping somebody in work is as equally as important.
Yeah.
Or if somebody wants to change their career as well, we need to explore that more
course,
as
of
well.
course.
Like
Yeah.
we all didn't start off our first job and we're still doing our first job.
Yeah.
So people do change and move, and so we do need to look at that as well. I think that's a big part, and we're hearing more of that now too. I think it's called career surfing, whereas
Yes.
we would have been very much in the top of our time. You get a job, you stay in a job.
You stay. You do not try and leave it.
But now it's like people are going in, they're staying for a couple of years, they're moving on, they're now looking at companies. A lot of young people are looking at what are companies offering as well, and inclusion and diversity is a big part of that. They want to know what are they doing in relation to that. They want to know, and it's not just about diversity and inclusion, it's also about the climate and what are you doing. So people are becoming much more aware of that as well as individuals and where they want to work. So, businesses now need to look at, what is their credentials.
Absolutely.
In a sense of sort of, inclusion of people with disabilities or other, diversity groups, all of those types of things. And you see a lot more of that, which is good as well. And then, but also then, the people will want to go there and work there and stay there, as well. But we're a wee bit off from that.
That's the thing. You have to start somewhere.
Yeah, you do.
You have to start somewhere, and I think it's better to start off in baby steps and not do it at all.
Because I was just about to ask, like, like whenever you're trying to help people like sustain the job that you help them, but how do you like help them with that? Like how do you like sustain, that they like to help them like stay at the job?
Well, I think it's just making sure that, if it's somebody, for example, when somebody starts a job, it's sort of making sure that they're learning the job.
Yeah.
And some people maybe need more support in that than others.
Okay.
But then, sometimes like industries are always changing all the time now with,
fair.
new
That's fair.
technology. And so sometimes somebody maybe has to retrain in the workplace as well.
Okay.
So with the support organisations, they'll help with that. They'll work with the employer very much so to help the person to look at how maybe that new technology they're using, or sometimes even things like if they're changing where they're moving to. If somebody could start off working in one part of Belfast and then they're maybe moved to another bigger unit or whatever. So it's that can be unsettling for people as well. So
With
it's
anyone,
about, with anyone. So it's about making sure that person is making that easy sort of transition or learning that as they go on as well. Or somebody, as I said, I was just an example there recently of that I heard about. It was a man who worked on a building site.
Yes.
And but unfortunately, his site was deteriorating, so he couldn't necessarily be on site. So that company then sort of had made him, created a job within, and because I think a little bit of a technology and all as well has changed, he's able to sort of work in an office.
Yes.
He doesn't
Okay.
have to
In the
necessarily
same-
go on site, but he's still doing the same job. But because things have changed and technology has changed and he's still very good at his job in
Yes.
doing that.
And then,
so
yeah.
that has changed. So they were able to sustain him. They seen the value and wanted him to
Okay,
stay.
yeah.
And they made those reasonable adjustments to maintain it. There is also a program called Workable NI. Workable NI is a program that really assists people, yes, to get into work. It sort of provides that support, that ongoing support. But that also is there to help people to retain their jobs as well.
Of course.
That so somebody may be working and everything's going very well, and then something maybe as a result of maybe a disability or the deterioration of the disability, then Workable can kick in and help them. Somebody from a support organisation will come and support them and the employer as well. So there are a number of programs. As I said, there's Access to Work, and then there's a Workable program as well that is provided there. And there's a condition management program through from the Department of Communities as well that'll help and support people. I'm just a little bit apprehensive because we know that a lot of the organisations are currently funded under a UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and now it is coming to an end sort of next year. So that's maybe another part of the work that from the Northern Ireland Union of Supported Employment that we look at is very much about that policy as well, and ensuring that that there are programs out there and and meeting the needs. So we are very concerned at the moment that the funding is to come to an end at March 31st of March next year. What will replace that?
Of course.
And I suppose today that we're filming this is probably a day where we know things are going to be changing, with the elections and everything. So, we really do need to look to see what the future does hold, because, currently we don't have any sort of mainstream program or specialist programs that will help people to get into work, that pre-employment. That part there that a lot of the organisations are working with. We have programs like Workable and Access to Work are very much about programs when you're in work. So you have to have a job for those. But how do you get to that job? And that's the part where the supported employment comes in, and that's where they're helping to support people along that journey to get into work. And that's and then once they're in work, they'll continue to provide the support then too. But
and then with
that's a big an Access to Work and Workable all kick in then. But it's the pre-employment.
It's like all the interviews and all the all the stuff like the preparation of before the interview. This is what the actual company is about.
Yes.
You could go to an interview and know nothing about the
and
the job.
Sometimes that's the simplest question that I actually heard there recently. It was a health trust that I was talking to, and one of the questions they said, people, we ask the question, what do we do? And people don't look it up. Beforehand, that would have been a very traditional question that people would have always answered it. And, and I was saying, yeah, you're right. We need to make sure people know that simple question about who you're going to work for. Do you know about them, what they do, and that type of thing. So that's...
Imagine turn around and go, do you know what you do?
Just completely.
They might turn around and say back, I don't. But do you know what I mean? That's like that. Those, and that's really where the support organisations come on board. They're, but they're very much working with the individual. They're not there to do everything for the person. They're there to help and support, and they're there. It's very much the model that we believe in supported employment is very much about getting people to do it for themselves as well, because there will come a stage when somebody won't necessarily always be there. So it's about building people's capacity. It's about their own, for them to be able to ask the questions.
Of course,
and because obviously the person can't be there every single day with them in the workplace.
Exactly.
So it's about building their capacity and their confidence as well. But we're always there to help and support if the individual needs it as well. So because things change and come back, people lose their jobs as well. Like we've recently gone through that for during COVID, where a lot of people were made redundant. And jobs had to close as a result of that, and but now it's getting people back into work again, and things are changing. We know ourselves now that we have the lowest rate of unemployment since pre-COVID. So employers are actually saying to us that they are crying out. We need people, and we know within your sector as well, very much so that they're in the creative industries. They're looking for. There's X amount of jobs that people are looking for. So it's a good time for that aspect of it. So that's.
And there's just me, if someone is out of work and they want to get back in, what would be is there like a step plan of what you get, what you have to tell the guys, okay, this is what we have to do to get back in, or is it like?
Well, I suppose yes. With the organisations, they'll, if say for example, if somebody is looking for work, they can contact one of the organisations, and they'll work through basically a sort of a plan with them.
Oh, okay.
They'll help. They'll look, as I said, that first bit meeting the individual, finding out what their skills are, looking at sort of developing up a CV.
Yeah. Okay.
And because a CV, sometimes you'll always find that some people ask for an application form, but I think more and more people are asking. It's turned a little bit, and people are asking for CVs. Because I heard a comment the other day that somebody said, "Oh, young people don't like filling in application forms; they just want to send a CV."
I think it's easier.
Yes, well, that's good to hear from you. That's your perspective.
Send us the CV, yeah.
I think CVs are far easier because there's some applications that you do online. They're like, "Do you have a CV?" And you're like, "Yes," but you can't put it on. And then when you do put the CVs on, you still have to write out what you've got and you're like,
I know.
CV.
Because actually, it was just the other day, there was a job, and I was surprised they were asking for CVs because it was quite a big company. And then I'd asked the lady about that, and she came back to me and says, "Oh, young people have said to us we don't want to fill it, or people have said to us we don't want to fill in an application, but it was putting in a CV and putting in a cover letter with that." So the organisations will work with people to sort of look what their history is, what they've done, their qualifications,
so they would
their
look at
work
that,
history. I suppose one of the things that we'll try to draw out for people as well, if somebody hasn't necessarily worked before, what are their skills? What are their transferable skills? What skills can they use within a workplace that they've maybe used in their, at home, or if they're a part of a club or an organisation like that. So asking them what those skills that they can bring. And we sometimes would say to employers, don't always just be asking about somebody's paid work. Look at their work experience as well, or unpaid work or volunteering work, and ask those types of questions as well. So it's pulling that all together.
But to build like the
to
whole,
build from that, and then you've got,
and
then just really what, your interests as well. And as part of what if the support organisation would be trying to gather, if somebody doesn't necessarily want to, work in a very fast environment, or, like often I say, like, two places are always very different. You can work in, as I comparing to, say, retail outlets, you have sort of a high end one, and then you have the other side of things, and people will work very, very quickly within that. Everybody will work very, very quickly, but there's different ways of doing things. No two workplaces are exactly the same. So you always sort of have to be able to have that idea behind what that organisation is like as well. So
Tesco's and Asda.
Free Malcolm.
They're very different. So that's the type of thing that you have to sort of look at, and that you only find that out when you go along to the workplace. Really, what it is. Where you might be in one workplace and all they ask you to do is sort of restock the shelves, but in another workplace they might be asking you to restock the shelves, use the tills, help out in the warehouse, different types of duties, all of those types of things. So it's gathering that information, and then looking. Now, some people may go see the job advertised and will apply that way, but sometimes, and often in our sector too, we would use work experience and go along to an employer and see if somebody get a work experience or a job shadowing opportunity, just to sort of see what work is like, I suppose I'm going to go back to years ago too, when I first started, was helping people out in the YTP scheme, and everybody wanted to work in, all young girls would want to work in sort of hairdressers or beauty salons, and you go along for the first day and you realise you're on your feet all day and all you're sweeping up hair. Is that your idea of what it's like? Is very different. It's just giving somebody that opportunity to sample. Because if you haven't worked before, how do you know what work is about?
Exactly.
And things like that. So it's having that opportunity.
I think shadowing is an important thing.
Is it easy to set up with the shadowing? Like with
yes, employers, are willing, to give people that opportunity as well.
Cool, no problem.
We actually have a scheme called it's called Job Shadow Day, and it's called Geo Day across Europe. So we're part of it's just not here in Northern Ireland; it's right across all of Europe as well. And it is about just one day, giving that person the opportunity. And so we would very much use it from an individual's perspective as, I maybe have never worked in that type of industry before. Can I try that and see what it's like? From an employer's perspective, we're sort of seeing that as being, maybe I have never had an opportunity to sort of employ somebody, or
course.
there's maybe nobody that we've worked with before with a disability, so this is an opportunity for them.
Yeah.
And then for the support organisations, we see that as an opportunity for them to contact an employer that they maybe not had contacted before.
Yeah.
And it is really good to hear the feedback, what people got, even just from that one day. You know, we're hearing back that, you know, the employer saying, oh, I never realised that, you know, the skills an individual have, and, you know, the difference that it makes in our environment. And, you know, from the individual's perspective, they're either going, you know, I kind of like that, or I don't like that place. It's not maybe for me. So they're gaining something, they're getting their skills. And then from the support organisation, they're making that links with a new employer. And they build on that. It isn't just about that one day. It's about...
You build the connections.
You build the connection, yes. So, you know, you know, you can ask, and afterwards, could we have another opportunity, you know, for somebody to say, they may be able to do that, they may not, but that's what they've happened over the years. So
of course,
we usually start that off in sort of September time, and I have to say we have a really good partnership along with the Northern Ireland Civil Service, and they offer a number of placements across. And so we used to always just have it on one day, and we did this right across Europe. Everybody did it on a certain day. But what we found from that, even from the support organisation, sometimes, like, you know, they were running around trying to get everybody a placement on that one day, and it was a bit running around Belfast or running around. They found it a bit difficult. So what we do now is we sort of say, listen, from September until the day we do the promotion, is that people can sample that along the way. And then on the day that we do the promoting, we try to show, you know, people in very, very different environments and different employers, and the organisations promote that through their own social media. We do that as well. So it's just really about raising that awareness. And so as I said, often people say it's one day. What can we get out of one day? But it really does now. I think, you know, when we hear back from, particularly I'd say the employers, what experience they've got out of it. And they'll take it on board a little bit more and things like that as well. So it has grown over the years. We had a couple of years, obviously, during COVID, where we weren't able to go into workplaces. So that sort of has changed now. We're sort of back to where we were sort of pre-COVID, and people can go into the workplace.
Probably the one downside with it too, where it was closed and you had to do everything through Zoom. It was probably the one downside. One downside for COVID.
Well, we were able to do that, and I think the first year we had to sort of postpone it. And really, what we did, because that was in 2020, we just basically did a celebration of where people were at, and, you know, examples of beforehand, you know. So we did that, and then sort of a couple of years later, we still had to do that the second year as well, when COVID 2021, but 2022 we actually had people doing it on Zoom, you know, because people were getting that opportunity to see round and things like that. But I think now we're back to, and I suppose part of that as well, you know, it's that experience of going into a workplace is really important for them. And you know, but some workplaces now still work online. So, you know, it's sort of get that balance, is to say, you know, you could do this online, or you could do it through
you can go through the offices.
Through the offices as well. So that's something now that we're hoping we'll be promoting again. And we'll send it to yourselves. You can promote it for us, because you're going to be our new...
We'll be your new social media.
We'll be your new social media.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, no, because that's what I was thinking, like, with, like, I always, like, I think it's better, like, going, like, in person. You know, like, some people on the, like, with me on the computer be like, oh yeah, how's it going? I'm talking a lot better when I'm in person on the phone or on a Zoom. I'm not too good. So I'm
exactly like that too. I hate the Zoom, and I hate phone calls as well. I'd rather speak face to face to someone. I just think when you're face to face with someone, you get more of a vibe from them. Whereas if you're with the phone, you can be like, aye,
what's up?
I know what you mean. And then you're like,
and that is, you're exactly right. That's a part of all of that. Even the work that we do as well, is it is about seeing somebody face to face. I know we've had to go through that time where a lot of work was done online. And, you know, I still think there's very much a place for that. I think we've changed as industries all across the world has changed, and we need that balance, that hybrid sort of approach and things like that there. But there's nothing more than actually being able to see somebody face to face, because you can pick up so much more.
Absolutely.
You know how, you know, even
body language,
you know, what somebody's wearing, how they're feeling in themselves. You know, you can see that, and I think that's, you know, we're definitely, you missed out on that now on a video, you know. You know, because somebody could be sitting, you know, as many person did on Zoom, you know, with maybe still their pajamas on, or just the top on them or whatever.
Someone just sitting in their boxers.
Boxes. Maybe you might have like a shirt and tie on the top.
I did that once, you know. I had to do an audition on Zoom one day. And all I did was put a shirt on and I had my boxers on. Thankfully, I didn't have to stand up for it. Like I just got it over the Zoom, and I was like, yeah, I'll just put a shirt on.
So do you remember that guy too? I think it was in the news, and he was sitting reading the news, and then he had to get up for something, and he was just sitting in his boxes, the shirt and tie and jacket on him. But then, so no, it is. But I do, the whole sort of technology change, as we did speak about earlier on, too, has changed greatly and will make a big difference, I think, for the lives of people with disability. Not only just people with disabilities, but I think
just in general.
In general. And and as I said to you earlier, probably I'm a little bit scared of it. But I think there's benefit with it, and I think we need to, and be careful with it as well.
As I say, it's like everything. You just have to. It depends who's using it or what you're using it for. If you're using it for the good thing, then happy days. If you're like, it's the same as the internet. When the internet first started, people use it for good, and then nowadays people sometimes use it for hacking and stuff, and that's not good for companies and stuff. But there's only so much percent of that, like, that's maybe doing that, whereas you're like, most people know common sense, like.
Well, I suppose maybe that's the bit that sometimes you hear in the media and things like that, so people do think that, but I do think that there's, that was one of the things actually at the conference that we mentioned earlier on as well. There was a lot about assistive technology and a lot about AI and what it can do and the changes and for the positive side.
Oh, there we go. AI scares me sometimes. Again, seeing Terminator 2, AI robots, it's like I can see the destruction happening.
Well, this had that. It was sort of, now Microsoft had come along and really sort of demonstrated some of their apps that they have and what that, how they, that can help in the workplace, things like, translator services, readers, somebody may have difficulty with, reading or whatever, just because of dyslexia or whatever, and then they can just scan their cups and all this type of thing. And it really was, and those were like the sort of simple aspects of it to really sort of making big differences in people's lives in the workplace as well,
It's funny you bring that up, because like we may go into university now in September. I'm not the best at reading things. I have very bad attention span. There's someone that's maybe 3, 4, 5 paragraphs, and it's just like, oh God. But I've found out that there is technology out there now where it reads it for you.
Yes.
It can record it for you as well. So when you're ready to do it, you just listen to it and you're like, cool. And as you say, the translator thing too.
Yeah.
It's brilliant for people who are maybe coming from an African or an Asian country or South America or somewhere, like, so as I say, there is good things for technology. So it's definitely there, like.
There was actually somebody was saying at the conference now that they it was actually the individual who was showing the employer how you could use the translator element, they were working a reception and somebody had come in who was Polish. And they were saying, oh, what are we going to do? Well, we had to get an interpreter in or whatever. And he says, no, use this. The thing, and it worked, So like it's sort of shown what, the benefits that it can definitely have. So no, there's I think we'll see a lot more of that when they coming around. So
for sure.
I always love, like, with me, I can read, but since half of it's missing due to my sight, so I might need to I can't turn like the computer sideways. So with the computer, like the company, or not the company, but like whenever I was in uni, like the person who takes care of like sight actually provided me like with a computer that had like read aloud, so you highlight on the computer, like Word document highlighted, and then it reads it out for you, and it's not like a Stephen Hawking. It doesn't like a proper, like, it sounds like an actual person reading it out. Like I sometimes you have like a Stephen Hawking voice, like, hello, my name, that.
It's sort of sat nav and all that.
Exactly, it's like a sat nav voice, and thank God it's actually updated, where it actually sounds like an actual human being talking.
And I think one of the things that they were sort of saying that also now it's sort of been built into all sort of technology now, so you don't have to go and buy something extra. It's already there, particularly with software. It's already built into your laptop that the font size, those things you could always change and things like that, but they're definitely the read aloud and, and all of
that.
That's
a big thing, I think.
It is definitely helped. And for summarising as well, I think that was one of the apps that they told us about, that, it can summarise something very, very quickly for you, so that's, the way sometimes you get loads of instructions on something, it can sort of get the main
just
points.
Summarize it
very, very quickly. And things. So there's definitely, I think there'll be, you know, we've seen how it has really just taken off. You know,
Yeah.
but it will definitely be there to benefit
Yeah,
people. You
no,
know.
definitely. It's
Definitely that,
in
yeah.
the birth stages.
It's in the development stages. Let's hope it doesn't go too far. Again, same Terminator.
Okay.
Prepared for the future. Oh, yeah.
Right, so do you want to wrap up?
So thank you so much, Edyth. That was amazing. That was a great conversation we had there. Thank you.
No, it was very good. Thank
And
you.
thank-
No, thank you.
Thank you for naming all the organisations that we don't have to.
Oh, that's okay. That's good. No, as I said, I will send on to you after this
Oh,
sort of the
brilliant.
list of the
Definitely,
organisers, because I
Please
think it's
do.
about letting people know, and hopefully then I would have people from England contacting me and saying, "Oh, who?"
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
But no,
so-
that's a good thing, like, as I say, because it gets us out there too, and
Oh, yeah.
helps yous out, helps us out, and as I say, helps them businesses out too. So.
Definitely.
Makes them look really good as well.
Yeah.
To us to annoy them.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you, Edyth. Appreciate you coming.
And,
Thank you for coming.
and thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you in another episode.